Morning. Welcome to Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off this morning. We begin with breaking news out of Washington and what could become welcome news for weary travelers. After a marathon day of negotiations, the Senate finally agreed overnight to fund the Department of Homeland Security, except for ICE and the Border Patrol. In other words, it would fund TSA, which means those agents would finally get paid. Now, the measure passed unanimously by voice vote, ending weeks of haggling in the Senate, but it's not over yet. The package faces an uncertain future in the House. A Republican leadership has previously objected to breaking ICE out of DHS funding. This breakthrough in Washington came just hours after President Trump announced he would sign an order to get TSA workers paid. It's hoped the move will ease the crisis at the nation's airports, where those snaking lines at security checkpoints are creating chaos for travelers. We'll get the latest on that airport chaos in a moment, but first let's go to NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Negotiations over Homeland Security funding have seesawed throughout this week, with the pressure only building as airport lines have been growing. And now hopes this surprise overnight vote will finally bring relief.
Recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
In a dramatic middle-of-the-night move, the Senate voting to fund the Department of Homeland Security, except for immigration enforcement under ICE. It passed unanimously after weeks of haggling, despite containing none of the ICE reforms Democrats had been holding out for. The two parties still pointing fingers.
The Democrats just kept moving the goalposts. And today, they just walked away.
This could have been accomplished weeks ago if Republicans hadn't stood in the way.
The vote follows an announcement from President Trump that he would sign an order to immediately pay TSA workers after weeks without a paycheck during the partial government shutdown led to serious staffing shortages and the longest airport wait times on record.
We missed our flight. We had a 6-hour layover, and unfortunately we were unable to make our connection because of delays.
Just feels like America, man. Like, you don't experience this in a lot of other countries, and I just feel like it's unacceptable.
The House still has to act before TSA and other agencies like the Coast Guard and FEMA can get fully back up and running. And House Republican leadership has previously objected to breaking ICE out of DHS funding. Congress is under pressure to seal the deal before boarding planes for a 2-week recess today in airports battered by the back and forth. The Senate's top Democrat said after the vote his party would still fight hard for ICE reforms and that there would be opportunities. But the top Republican shot that down, saying that ship has sailed and that it's a good possibility Republicans will move to pass ICE funding through a reconciliation process that does not require votes or input from Democrats.
So, Alice, first, do we have any idea when the House might act on this? And then if it does lead to the end of another government shutdown, what will Democrats have to show for it?
It's not the first time that question has been asked at the end of one of these shutdowns this term. The House is set to hold an unrelated vote at 10 o'clock this morning before they're supposed to leave town. So there's a decent chance we could see some movement then. Again, they feel this pressure to handle this before they try showing their face in an airport. Now, as for what Democrats are going to have to show for this, I think they will look to the fact that since they started making these demands for ICE reforms, you have seen that major drawdown in the federal officer presence in places like Minneapolis. And then the new head of the Department of Homeland Security has talked about putting things in like judicial warrants when ICE officers are going into people's private homes or businesses. None of that is codified as people always want to see, but if they want to point to signs of progress, they may have some opportunity there.
All right, Alice Barr with breaking news out of Washington. Thank you. Now, travelers are hoping this news out of Washington could signal the beginning of the end for the chaos unfolding at airports nationwide. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist is at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta with that part of the story. Aaron, good morning.
Well, despite the progress that we are seeing in Washington, it really has not trickled down to this airport in Atlanta. It is the busiest time of the day at the busiest airport on the planet, and it looks like it. You can see this line in one side of the terminal that is literally snaking around the baggage claim area as folks work their way from here just into the TSA pre-check line. This is not the main checkpoint line, which is also extending through the middle and to the other side of the airport. Same thing goes on the north side. This is what we've been seeing for the last 2 weeks or so, largely due to the fact that we know so many TSA officers have quit, 500 of them. Other TSA officers in big numbers are calling out at this airport. The last numbers we got were a 40% call out rate here. And so that has still contributed to these long lines that we're seeing. Now, of course, we know as the day goes on, these lines have tended to die down. We expect that to happen again today. But the reality is those officers still aren't being paid. The deals in Washington have not totally come together yet. And that could mean that we could see lines like this continuing through the weekend and at least into next week. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you. Now, this weekend will mark 4 weeks since the war with Iran began. President Trump insists Iran wants a deal to end the war. In his words, Iran is begging for a deal. Yesterday, the president did extend his pause on strikes against Iran's energy plants until April 6th. Buying more time for an agreement. Still, the U.S. and Israel continued to bombard Iran with strikes overnight. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Doha, Qatar, with more on this. Raf, good morning. President Trump did extend his pause on those strikes against Iran's power plants, yet the U.S. and Iran are sending mixed messages on their so-called negotiations to end the war. So what is the latest?
Well, Joe, good morning. You'll remember that President Trump initially gave Iran just 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face attacks on their energy plants. That caused a lot of concern in the markets. It caused a lot of concern in Gulf countries like where we are in Qatar about what Iran's retaliation would be. He then extended that deadline by 5 days. And last night on Truth Social, he announced he was extending that deadline once again by another 10 days. He says that's as per Iranian government request, and that they now have until 8 p.m. Eastern on April 6th. He says talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media, they are going very well. Now, Joe, we just don't see any evidence that these talks are going very well. The Iranians say there are no negotiations. There had been some discussion about American and Iranian negotiators meeting in Pakistan, potentially this week. As of right now, there is just no sign that that meeting is happening. The president did make this kind of cryptic comment yesterday that Iran had given him a gift of allowing 10 tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. But it is really not clear that these negotiations are actually making any progress. Jeff?
So, Ralph, no strikes on energy plants, but overnight we did just see overall strikes continuing across the region. Israeli Defense Forces announcing strikes on Iran's naval capabilities and its aerial defense systems. What more can you tell us about some of these attacks we saw last night?
Right. So both the U.S. and Israel right now seem to be quite focused on Iran's military assets in southern and western Iran. Those are the assets that could potentially most directly threaten the Strait of Hormuz. Reopening the strait, obviously an enormous priority for the United States, but we are now seeing Israel focusing more on that also. But Joe, I can tell you, it has been a busy day here in the Gulf. Iran struck 2 Kuwaiti ports earlier on today. It fired several missiles at Saudi Arabia, and you were hearing real frustration from both senior American and Israeli officials that despite the intensity of the bombardment, Iran retains the ability to lash out at its neighbors.
Another thing we heard from Israel's defense forces yesterday was that they killed the commander of Iran's Navy. He's responsible for blocking that vital Strait of Hormuz. How is the U.S. responding to that, and could this death change anything as far as the strait is concerned?
So, Joe, we heard a little earlier from Admiral Brad Cooper. He is the head of Central Command, the combatant command responsible for this war. I'll read you just a little bit of his post on X. He says that the commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy was responsible for harassing thousands of innocent merchant mariners, attacked hundreds of vessels, and that they say the region is safer now that he is dead. But, Joe, as we've seen over the course of nearly a month of war, killing Iranian officials, no matter how senior they are, is really no guarantee of any change of policy. And everything we are seeing in the Strait right now indicates the Revolutionary Guard remains in control there, and they are still turning away ships. Jeff.
All right. Raf Sanchez in Qatar. Raf, thank you so much. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now from Washington with more on the politics of this. John, good morning. Thursday marked President Trump's 10th cabinet meeting of his second term. We carried the hour-and-a-half meeting live on News Now yesterday, and the president did offer some updates on the war. What did we learn, John?
Joe, I'm not sure we learned a ton because there's a lot of fog of war around this war and a lot of claims and counterclaims, but we did hear from the president. We did get an update from him on, as you said, some of these aspects of the war, including what the present was that he said that the United States got from Iran. But let's listen to what he said.
They now have a chance to make a deal, but that's up to them. And they'll tell you, we're not negotiating. We will not negotiate. Of course they're negotiating. They've been obliterated. Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up.
It's interesting here we have the president talking about that Strait of Hormuz, which is affecting gas prices here domestically, but not so much about a plan for the end of the war or talking about the full objectives here. So at least, acutely right now, what he's most focused on is getting that strait open.
John, you mentioned the present, which relates to the strait. So this started earlier this week. President Trump sort of teased this, saying Iran gave the U.S. a present. He described it as being very valuable, but wouldn't reveal what it was till yesterday during the cabinet meeting. So what was the president talking about?
The president says that the Iranians basically gave him a high sign, perhaps an olive branch, whatever you want to call it, by allowing 8 ships through the Strait of Hormuz. That was an indication, according to the president, that they are in fact negotiating and that they are doing so, in a way that they can prove that they're doing it. I don't want to say necessarily in good faith, but let's hear what he had to say.
They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil, 8 boats, 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats.
And the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has said that the president is corrupt and is lying, and they say that any ships basically allied with the United States or Israel will not be allowed through the strait. What they did not say specifically, though, is that there was no 8-ship movement that was intended to signal President Trump that they are, in fact, negotiating with him. On the other hand, there's not a lot of evidence out there that 8 ships, or 10, as the president said, actually made it through the strait in the way that he said, with Pakistani flags. So, for those of us watching from afar, it is certainly difficult to tell exactly where these negotiations are, if they're in fact occurring beyond some discussion between intermediaries.
And John, real quick, we've seen the number 8 come out of the president's mouth, but then 10. Do we know what the actual number is there?
We don't, Joe, because we don't know that there were 8 ships in the first place.
Got it. All right.
So it's hard to know exactly how many.
There you go. All right. John, we should also ask, this weekend is going to mark 4 weeks of the war with Iran. So what did the president say yesterday about his timeline for this operation?
The president has said the war was over on day 1. So the timeline is all over the place. And in fact, it was a little bit all over the place yesterday. Continues to be all over the place. But I think the core argument from the president and his aides, when they're sticking to the script, is that the war will be over when the United States has accomplished all of its objectives. And basically that's to make sure that Iran cannot be a threat to the United States and maybe to some extent to the allies in the Gulf region.
All right. John Allen in Washington. John, thank you so much. Now, doubts over the prospect of a deal to end the war do continue to weigh on global markets. Just look at the S&P 500, which tracks the stock performance of leading companies. It took a nosedive yesterday, posting its worst single day since the war began. The market benchmark fell 1.7%. The Dow tumbled 470 points, and the Nasdaq closed down nearly 2.4%, pushing the index into correction territory. That's when an index falls 10% 10% or more. As for the price of oil, that continued to rise after President Trump added to the uncertainty of striking a deal with Iran and keeping that Strait of Hormuz open. Caleb Silver is the editor-in-chief at Investopedia and chief business editor of People Inc. And he's here with more on all of this. So more numbers to throw out. We have this extension, of course, of 10 days before the energy plants could get hit. But the NASDAQ's now down 10.9% from its October high. That's correction territory. What does this all underscore about just deeper fears about the economy and its strength right now?
Yeah, remember, the stock market and the economy, not the same thing, but the stock market reflects where investors think future profits are growing, and they think future profits are going to be pinched by these high oil prices and by just a slowdown in global growth overall. First you had tariffs, now you have high oil prices. You have an inverse relationship. The higher oil goes, the more stocks get under pressure because of inflation concerns.
There is so much uncertainty right now about what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, how long this war is going to go, how it could possibly end. How is all of that uncertainty impacting specifically the oil and the gas prices right now?
Well, everybody knows what's happening with gas prices. We have a national average now around $3.98, a full dollar higher than they were just a month ago. So that's putting pressure, obviously, on consumers and on businesses that require fuel. But if you look at crude oil, the bottom of the barrel, that's where a lot of that diesel comes from. That's where the jet fuel comes from. And you're already hearing from companies like United Airlines that they're going to charge higher ticket prices. They're going to curb routes. And we know for businesses, this means lower profits. But if you look out and oil prices out into the future, oil prices in May, June, and July look a lot lower, like about $90, $80 per barrel. That tells you that traders think this is going to end relatively soon.
We have a new report out. It's from a group called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. What are they saying, and what does it say about just the global economy right now?
Yeah, they're saying that growth is going to slow. It's going to slow. They had projections for global growth at 3.2% to start out the year. They've ratcheted those down to 2.9%. But when you look at the big economies, and the U.S. is one of the biggest economies in the OECD, they've taken that growth down to just 2% for 2026 and then down to 1.7% for 2027. What does that all mean? They see growth slowing in this economy, in the U.S. economy. First it was tariffs again, and now it's high oil prices and uncertainty means slower growth.
Just as we come to this Friday here, what has been the story for this week when it comes to the economy and when it comes to the markets?
A lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt about future growth potentials. And we were getting into the year on a pretty strong foot with all the spending around AI. We had markets near record highs. You've seen that tide turn very swiftly over the last few weeks, but really over the last couple of months. A lot of pressure on the stock market, a lot of concerns that maybe we were too high and this could be the beginning of a bigger sell-off. Down 10% in the NASDAQ, down about 6% in the S&P 500 so far since this war began.
Right. Caleb Silver, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. The Justice Department just revealed a major investigation, not through a press release, but through an inadvertent post on social media. The DOJ is looking into admissions policies at 3 major medical schools, Stanford, Ohio State, and the University of California, San Diego. The investigations came to light following several social media posts by the head of the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon. You see, she posted a photo on X showing a face-down piece of paper that hides the text of an underlying page. Her caption reads, "Launching a series of civil rights investigations, another day in paradise." Well, people quickly figured out what those documents said by increasing the contrast and flipping the image to reveal phrases like Ohio State University College of Medicine and Title VI. We've since learned the DOJ is seeking data from those schools. Those schools have until April 24th to comply or face disruptions to federal funding. More on this, let's bring in NBC News senior justice reporter Ryan Riley. Riley, good morning. I understand that Ohio State shared with you the letter it received from the DOJ. So what's the nature of this investigation, and do we know why the Trump administration is targeting medical schools in particular?
Yeah, they're essentially it's around, obviously, as you said, the federal funding here, but the underlying basis of this is the admissions process and some of the Supreme Court decision that came down a few years ago when it came to use of race in admissions. And that's essentially what this investigation is focusing in on, possible race discrimination in medical school applications. So we know of those 3 universities, but as you sort of laid out there, it came about because Harmeet Dillon, who has a very strong social media presence, has, 1.2 million million followers on her personal account, a bunch of other followers on her professional account, posted that image that was flipped upside down. And, when you sort of, ran it through a program and you could, increase the contrast, you could get a pretty good sense of what the entire letter said. And then Ohio State confirmed the investigation themselves. And, Harmeet Dillon has been involved in launching a lot of these investigations. She's sent a lot of letters out, and she often uses social media to figure out what she's going to investigate next, and has talked about that in some interviews with conservative news organizations.
So, Ryan, the DOJ Civil Rights Division has recently faced allegations of targeting people for political purposes. That includes from former CNN anchor Don Lemon. How have the division's priorities and the way it operates changed under Dillon's leadership?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a massive change since the beginning of the Trump administration, and all of these people who career civil employees had left the division or been pushed out. They've also, that Don Lemon case in particular is really fascinating because it's the first time they've ever used the law in this context to go after a protest inside of a church. They arrested 39 individuals, but just recently they admitted that they arrested one of the wrong people. They falsely accused and arrested a woman who was not involved in a protest. And the attorneys for the defendants in that case are saying that this is sort of the shoot first, ask questions later mentality that's being driven by politics. Harmeet Dillon made it very clear she wanted to go after Don Lemon and did just that. And, a lot of these social media posts are going to be something that is going to impact that case potentially down the line.
When we talk about these medical schools, what could be the consequences for them because they are so heavily focused on research? And just what are the potential ripple effects for other universities?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a large sort of bureaucratic mess that you get brought into because you have to give away all of this data, or you have to sort of fight this or push back on it. It just it creates a really big burden for a lot of these universities to be engaged in this process. And because this is something that is I think so political in a lot of people's eyes and driven by politics, it's a tricky thing for a lot of these universities to be able to handle. And, the Civil Rights Division could extend these investigations for a while. There's not necessarily a lot stopping them from continuing to look into various admissions policies at these medical facilities.
All right, Ryan Riley, thank you so much. We're expecting record high temps across much of the South this weekend, so let's get a closer look with your Morning News Now weather. And Angie Lassman joins us with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Happy Friday. We made it to the last day of the work weekend. We've still got some really warm temperatures that folks are dealing with in a couple of spots, but we've also got dramatically cooler conditions settling in behind this cold front that we've been tracking for the past day or so. That means that we're still ahead of it, going to ramp our temperatures up this afternoon. Atlanta, Macon, Columbia, Raleigh, Fayetteville, Charleston, you name it, really across parts of the Southeast, and we've got the potential to see some record highs yet again. We're going to be well above normal with the high 80s expected in Charlotte and Columbia, as well as Raleigh. Norfolk ends up at 77 degrees, and we've got the mid 80s in Atlanta. That is the warm part of the East. The cold part of the East is the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and really across parts of the Midwest, where over a 24-hour period, we're going to see temperatures dropping 30, almost 40 degrees. So notice in Detroit, your high today, 39 degrees. We've got 48 for Pittsburgh. Even New York City, close to the 70s yesterday in some spots across the state. We've got 54 today is what we're expecting for our high temperature. So really a big difference from what we were dealing with yesterday. Very spring-like feel, not so much for the short term, but notice these 70s do get back in the picture in places like Chicago by the time we get through the weekend. So you got to get through the 50s on Saturday in Minneapolis, and then it's the mid 60s by Monday, upper 50s rather in Pittsburgh, but you're back to the 60s by Monday. And we kind of keep that roller coaster ride going. Meanwhile, we've got a high pressure that's sliding across parts of the plains, and this is going to leave us this weekend with a real kind of significant wildfire threat. We've got really dry conditions, and we've got gusty winds stretching from Texas to Minnesota. 40, 50, 60 mile per hour gusts are going to be possible today and tomorrow. And that leaves us really with a concern that we could see some of these fires start and spread quickly. Strong strong winds, low humidity, dry vegetation. 15 million people are under those alerts right now. But when we take a big picture look, we've really got widespread drought. We've seen one of the driest winters in decades. That, of course, not going to lend itself to helping out when it comes to fire season, this upcoming fire season. We've got really dry grasses and forests, and it's extensive across much of the country, Joe. You can see all of the locations that are under extreme drought at this time with, those hot temperatures, the dry conditions still in the picture.
I remember 10 plus years ago, pretty much all the wildfires we covered were limited to being out west.
Yeah.
And now so much of the country under fire danger almost year round.
Totally.
Huge change. Angie, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.